This is Power Source, a podcast by the Citizens Utility Board, where we track down the answers to your utility questions. I'm your host, Hannah Finnerty. Amid an ongoing pandemic and skyrocketing energy prices, CUB in 2021 sued a scandal-plagued utility, beat back millions of dollars in rate hikes, and helped pass historic energy legislation. The year isn't quite over, but so far, CUB has handled more than 1,300 utility customer complaints or inquiries, staffed over 300 free events, including 58 of those in Spanish. We've helped negotiate $2 million in refunds and energy assistance from alternative suppliers accused of violating state regulations. We've helped reduce rate hikes by a total of about $85 million. We've added 2 free consumer guides to our guide catalog, and we helped pass the Climate and Equitable Jobs Act, which has been hailed as a national model for finding consumer-friendly ways to fight climate change. In this episode of Power Source, we're giving you CUB's year in review, month by month, starting with January. At the beginning of the year, CUB filed a complaint in federal court to win refunds for customers victimized by ComEd's ongoing ethics scandal. The lawsuit said that ComEd willfully and intentionally violated numerous state and federal laws with the goal of obtaining money and political power. Meanwhile, CUB helped cut Ameren, Illinois' natural gas rate hike by about $26 million, and it faced a new $293 million NICOR gas rate hike request, the highest gas request in Illinois history. CUB called it a cold slap in the face for consumers struggling during the pandemic. In February, Governor J.B. Pritzker declared a state of emergency in all 102 Illinois counties because of snow and cold. Across the southern U.S., record cold froze wellheads and pipelines, constraining natural gas supply just as demand soared. Back at CUB, we feared this would lead to skyrocketing gas costs in Illinois. Also, CUB filed testimony arguing North Shore Gas's proposed $10.6 million increase was unjust and unreasonable and should be slashed. On World Water Day in March, CUB called for legislation that would require a local referendum before private water companies could buy a municipal water system. Under state law, Illinois American Water and Aqua Illinois can raise customers' rates to pay for municipal purchases, and so far, they've charged their customers more than $250 million just to pay for their acquisitions. CUB's news conference got wide coverage, and a special website to educate consumers on this issue, CUBWaterTracker.com, won an award for excellence. In April, ComEd filed for a $51 million rate hike and Ameren for $64 million. Over the past decade, the utilities have raked in hundreds of millions of dollars thanks to a system of setting rates by formula that reduces regulatory oversight. Formula rates are at the center of the ComEd scandal. The utility is accused of illegal lobbying to pass state legislation that created formula rates. CUB aimed to help pass pro-consumer clean energy legislation before the end of May as a member of the Illinois Clean Jobs Coalition. The stage was set to pass a compromise clean energy bill with strong provisions, like getting Illinois to 100% clean energy, replacing formula rates, expanding energy efficiency, and creating an ethics monitor to hold utilities like ComEd accountable. But talks among labor leaders, fossil fuel companies, and utilities stalled in the last minute. At the end of the day on May 31st, the coalition emailed its members, "No bill tonight. No update. Get some rest." A new hope blossomed as legislative leaders planned to pass a clean energy bill in mid-June. But again, there was no vote. This was attributed to a handful of issues, including a schedule on how and when to close dirty, expensive power plants. Believing that failure to pass a bill would be bad for consumers' power bills, CUB worried that all the hard work would be for nothing. CUB also released a new guide, giving people tips on shopping in the phone market. As Springfield drama continued into July, CUB helped negotiate a settlement in which alternative electric supplier Great American Power agreed to pay $325,000 in refunds and energy assistance for allegedly failing to comply with state regulations. Also, an ICC report showed that Illinois customers of power suppliers had collectively paid $431 million more in the last year than they would have with a utility. While CUB hosted a series of summer events focused on cutting utility bills, Springfield energy talks were at an impasse in August, yet again. The Clean Jobs Coalition said it couldn't agree to a bill that favored, quote, large multi-billion-dollar fossil fuel interests. After a Senate hearing on August 31st, CUB emailed its staff. It appears things have slowed or ground to a halt. But just a few days later, in the early morning hours of September 1st, with key issues still up in the air, the Senate passed an energy bill and sent it to the House for further negotiation. The Clean Jobs Coalition pushed for a timeline for reducing emissions at expensive coal-fired power plants and closing them by 2045. After days of talks, all parties agreed to that timeline, and within a week, the House passed the newly named Climate and Equitable Jobs Act, or CEJA, and then Governor Pritzker signed it into law. CEJA puts the state on a path to achieve an affordable, clean energy future. Amid that good news, we got some not-so-good news. North Shore Gas got a $4 million rate hike, about $6 million lower than its original request, and a federal judge dismissed CUB's lawsuit against ComEd. Undeterred, CUB continues to fight for a refund in state court and before the ICC. Since the February deep freeze, utilities were charging gas prices double or worse what they were last year. Also, ComEd and Ameren power supply rates increased by 10% and 19%, respectively. Concerned about a painful winter, CUB in October launched CUBHelpCenter.com, a resource available in English and Spanish that explains why bills are going up and offers tips on efficiency, safety, energy assistance, and preventing disconnection. CUB also printed its first ever guide geared toward renters, a renter's utility guide, Go Green, Cut Costs, and Learn Your Rights, which can be ordered online for free at citizensutilityboard.org. CUB also released a study showing that Chicago residents could slash their energy costs by up to $47,000 over the next 3 decades by replacing gas furnaces with a highly efficient electric alternative, heat pumps. In November, the ICC granted a $240 million rate hike to Nicor Gas, the largest gas hike in Illinois history. CUB helped reduce it by $50 million, but this is still terrible news in the middle of a winter of skyrocketing prices. And in December, the ICC granted ComEd a $45 million delivery rate hike. Plus, another Ameren rate hike is still pending before the Commission. So there's a lot more work to do, but we're ready for it. Thank you all for your generous donations, fiery activism, and enthusiastic support this year. We could not have accomplished everything we did without you. We wish you a happy holiday season, and the team at CUB is looking forward to working hard for Illinois consumers like you in 2022. This episode of Power Source was written and produced by me, your host, Hannah Finnerty. If you enjoyed this episode, please hit subscribe in your podcast app and visit www.citizensutilityboard.org for more information about utilities in Illinois.